Security training for statement. Well, my name is Kelly O'Brien Weaver, and I'm so excited to be standing in front of you today. I am here to share the lessons that I've learned being a school counselor, but I also am here to celebrate school counseling across the state. As many of you know, Maine is a very special place to me. I was born and raised here, and it's my passion to elevate school counseling within the state. However, some of you might realize that I have some roots that are a little bit more foreign. I'd really like to tell you the story about my interview for my first school counseling job. It was in the middle of the night out in the outskirts of Chongqing, China, in the middle of a monsoon. I found myself in a very unique position because I was excited to have just graduated with my master's, and I was looking for my first school counseling job in Maine. At the same time, I had already been accepted as a Fulbright scholar to study in China with the U.S. Department of Education. So I found myself straddled between two worlds, and I was very excited to have both opportunities, but as you can see, that's a really hard thing to do, to find a job in Maine while you are in China. So I sent out so many applications all of the time, and I was doing it all digitally. Now, many schools were not interested in hiring me because it was just a digital application. I did find one open-minded school, Weatherby, thank you, and they were very happy to interview me over FaceTime at 11 o'clock a.m., which is 11 o'clock p.m. in China. And that day, I remember very clearly because my Fulbright scholarship was kind of coming to a head, and my project, which was on creativity and education, it was kind of like the big day for it. So I had spent the day at Zhilong Middle School, which is a very rural school on the outskirts of Chongqing. And I had spent the day trying to create relationships with students despite using my translator. I had taught a lesson that I hoped to be very engaging, and then I had debriefed it with the school staff at the middle school. The whole day it rained, the whole day. So I got in the truck to ride a very treacherously muddy road back to kind of the highway, and it's a disaster. The truck is sliding everywhere, and I realize if I'm late, there's no way that I can contact Weatherby School and tell them that I won't be able to participate. So my nerves are kind of rising. We get to the highway, and I take a bus through a flooded, crowded highway. It's like 75 cars long, it seems like, or wide. The bus drops me off about 2 blocks from the hotel, and I'm in my professional gear, trudging through 8 inches of water, trying to make it back to this hotel so that I can have a job interview. I get to the hotel, I don't have time to spare, so out of my bag I just kind of wrap a dry scarf around my shoulders, put the iPad up, and press on. Now in China, there's very few hotels that have Wi-Fi everywhere. It's really just at the desk, right? So I'm standing kind of on the desk and definitely loitering. And the people are kind of looking at me strangely, what's going on here? The cleaning staff are trying to get water from coming into the hotel, and the noise from the hotel bar across is getting very loud and animated. And as soon as I peered onto the screen and I saw those Maine faces back in dry, sunny Hampton, Maine, I entered one of the best educational conversations I've ever been in. I was so excited to hear what they had to say, what they were looking for their school, and I was really excited to tell them all about myself. Now, as a school counselor, you're very lucky because you're able to be in conversations like this often. In fact, last week I was in a conversation with John King, who's the previous U.S. Department of Education Secretary, and he was amazing. My takeaway from that conversation, I felt like he said it so eloquently. He said, there are things wrong with education today, but there's nothing wrong with education that can't be fixed by everything that's right with education. And I've just been thinking about that all week long. Now, sometimes there are times that as a school counselor you need to kind of take a creative turn. You gotta swerve to meet the mark. I'd really like to tell you about a lesson that I learned from a tiny yellow hamster named Pumpkin. My first year as a school counselor at Weatherby School, the third grade teacher was out on medical leave for several weeks, and we had an enthusiastic substitute. She was in it, she was great. She was terrified of the classroom pet, whose name was Pumpkin. Pumpkin was pretty naughty, but very well loved. Pumpkin liked to escape his cage and spend the weekend in the reading nook, just for fun. So about a week in, the substitute comes running into my office. She's very, very upset because though Pumpkin led a very, very fulfilling life as a classroom pet, he did die overnight. She was horrified. She suggested we just take the cage out of the room, no one will notice, we'll just smooth it over. I explained we definitely cannot do it. None. So she and I make a plan. It involves some careful conversations, and part of that plan was meeting with the student who was in charge of Pumpkin that week. I sit down, I carefully choose some painful words, and as soon as I break it, the student says, "Miss O'Brien, you cannot tell the substitute teacher." And I said, "Why not?" She goes, "Well, we all know that Pumpkin died yesterday, but we're not telling her because Pumpkin was her favorite hamster." So, long story short, the substitute teacher was so worried about her students that she wanted to take the pain away for them. But these students at 8 years old also felt the same love for their substitute teacher and tried to save her the pain of hearing about Pumpkin's passing. School counselors are witnesses to stories like this every day. We see the strength in the human spirit, and we see what's best in our students in the world. But sometimes our students show us an expert potential to navigate the world around them. Last year, I was able to witness true greatness when I saw students overcome a huge obstacle and actually end up right on top. Now, some of you in the room probably know that I have a passion for breakout boxes and using them in my school counseling program. A breakout box is kind of like an escape room, but you take away a lot of the competition, you take away anything scary, you put in some mindsets and behaviors that you're targeting, and it's a great collaborative tool to just help your school counseling program along. My students love them. Last year, Mrs. Sear and I were working to get the spaghetti dinner, the yearly spaghetti dinner up and running. And as part of it, we decided, let's do a breakout box. It'll be family edition, so we'll time it and it'll be a little harder. It went well. The trouble is that it was very popular. And there was not enough time in one evening to get all of the families through. So me being me, I decide, that's okay. We'll just use every recess for the next 3 to 4 weeks to get everyone through who wanted to do it. Equal opportunity breakout box. I was approached by a group of young men who have some very substantial struggles, academic struggles, and they wanted to do the breakout box. The problem is that this breakout box was a little more competitive than usual. There is a top 10 list of times, and it was designed for families, not really for students, so it was a difficult one. I had to make a hard decision that day. I wanted them to be able to participate, but I worried about their spirits. I didn't want something fun to turn into a conversation about disappointment, and I didn't want, I guess most of all, I didn't want them to not take on a challenge like that in the future. Through some careful planning, I collaborated with a special ed teacher, got the blessing from Mrs. Sear to go for it, and the day came, I pushed the time timer button and let them go. First, the students expertly put together a very difficult wooden dowel puzzle. No problem. Next, they start to crack a code, and one of them has the paper in front of him, and the other is writing up on the board what the code says. Then, they started pouring through a book to find clues, and they're just kind of carefully mentioning back and forth what they see. With zero help from me, the students broke the school record, which was a very special time. You better believe that I marched those boys right up to Mrs. Sears' office so they could have the biggest celebration that we could manage. So Mrs. Sear, the special ed teacher, and myself are in this office cheering them on. And the boys met us with the most amazing nonchalance that I've ever seen. This was a huge deal for us, but for those students, it was just normal. Of course we broke the school record, Mr. Bryan. What's the problem? I tell you these stories as a window into the world of a school counselor. Obviously, for every amazing story like this, there's an equally sad or scary story to tell you. In fact, my husband and I often joke that I get a wide variety of reactions when people hear that I'm a school counselor. Sometimes it's a story about their beloved school counselor, and sometimes it's kind of just like, oh, cool, nothing to see here. And then sometimes it's, how do you do that work? How do you listen to a sad story all day and then just go home? How do you have the presence to do this? Here's what I know for sure. I know that my career is full of stories of strength and compassion and resiliency and this kid logic problem solving. I know that sometimes things get hard, they get dark, and they get impossible. And those are the days that it's really important that we keep our why close to us, the reason why we've become a school counselor. Here are my reasons why. Number one, I'm a school counselor for the amazing conversations that I've had with my colleagues and how they build me up. Like that time in Chongqing when I was in the middle of a monsoon and having the best interview ever and making a connection over video. My reason why is for Pumpkin the hamster and what he showed me about how people protect other people. And my reason why is for those boys who did an amazing job and overcame everything to win the school record. I have the best career on earth. I have a few other reasons why, but these are my dad. My dad is an educational leader. He's retired now. My dad taught me patience, a lot of patience every day. He taught me that the power of listening has over the power of talking. And he taught me that sometimes it's really important to go off the lesson plan. And most of all, he did so with a silly but dry sense of humor. My mom taught me how to engage a classroom of students. She modeled what it's like to put hard work into hard goals. She gave me this mantra that was super annoying when I was a kid. This is what it was. Kelly, you're good at hard things. I remember rolling my eyes time after time whenever she would say that, but as an adult, I go back to that from a place of warmth, and I realize, I am good at hard things, actually. To my brother, Corey, who taught me work-life balance. My brother taught me that a weekend of adventure is enough self-care to get you through a whole week, even the hard one. To my co-captain in life, Scott Weaver, my husband. Scott is the greatest support that I have as an adult. He always asks me this very simple question. He says, so what's next for you? This question had somehow convinced me to run 26.2 miles 4 years ago. It convinced me to start my first steps towards a successful ramp application, and probably helped me do a million other things. He probably will ask me that question today, so if you have an idea, let me know. To my colleagues at RSU 22, to Regan Nichols, who was actually on the other side of the iPad that fateful day in the rainstorm. RSU 22 has created an expectation of excellence, and they've built the systems to support it. To my principal, Jen Sear, she's my brave and strong leader. She's my partner in doing good, and most of all, she's my teammate every day. To the Maine School Counseling Association, thank you for your leadership and passion and innovation in the field, and thank you so much for the incredible opportunity of becoming Maine School Counselor of the Year. And finally, to the Department of Education, thank you so much for hosting us today, and thank you so much for providing the structure and framework for our practice. Thank you so much.